Three bomb disposal squads have sanitized 6 villages to eliminate fear and enable safe return of the residents. Many who took shelter in colleges and other government facilities since the shelling began are also returning to their homes.
I want to tell people that all the villages are being sanitized one by one. So far, 6 villages have been sanitized, and we have kept the buses for those, and they can now move to their houses. And it's a request to these families, if they find any shells or anything, please inform the authorities as soon as possible. And we are sure other villages will be cleared by evening too.
The MLA of our area has arranged for the vehicles for us to go back to our houses. We are going back to our houses and we only want peace. We are going after 5 to 6 days. Our houses are destroyed and burnt, and the government should now help us and stop this shelling forever. My house is damaged. My 2 uncles have lost both their houses, and in our family, 5 people were injured.
After a ceasefire was announced, commercial activity has sprung back to action. People can be seen on streets. Schools, colleges and other institutions are also likely to open soon. Flight operations in the Srinagar airport are likely to resume from Tuesday onwards. In these border areas, optimism is everything, and despite the tentative nature of this ceasefire, people are optimistic that peace is here to stay. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
And here's a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We get you the latest on Israel's aid blockade and what things are looking like on the ground in Gaza. What's the story behind Qatar's flying palace to serve as Donald Trump's Air Force One? We tell you all that you need to know. Why have the Taliban unleashed a war against chess? What's behind the move to ban chess in Afghanistan? We tell you. Let's now shift focus to Gaza. It is on the verge of total starvation. Israel's aid blockade has threatened Gaza with famine, with 500,000 people facing starvation. According to reports, people in Gaza are eating 1 meal per day, if lucky. And this is 70 days after the Israeli military halted the entry of food, water, medicine, and all other life-saving supplies into Gaza. Now, Palestinians in Gaza are urging U.S. President Donald Trump for a permanent ceasefire, entry of aid, and the reconstruction of Gaza. The U.S. President is expected to visit Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, starting on Tuesday. That's May 13.
We, as Gazans, demand U.S. President Donald Trump to stop the war, a permanent and total cessation of war, to reconstruct, to reopen the crossings and get humanitarian aid in. Since we are hearing in the news that Hamas want to release the Israeli-American hostage, Alexander, we demand the entry of aid because we are starving and we do not have food, flour, or anything.
On Monday, Palestinians in Gaza's Jabalia looked through the rubble of a school that was housing displaced families following Israeli strikes that killed at least 15 people, according to local health authorities. The Israeli military said it was looking into the report.
Wake up, people. Look at Gaza and Gaza's children. This war is not a war against Hamas, as you are saying, nor against saboteurs or terrorists. None of that is true. You are waging a war on the children of Gaza, killing Gaza's children. All those martyred here are children, and those who were martyred in that other time were children. You are displacing children. Where will they go? Wake up, people.
If the Israeli siege persists, The entire population is expected to face crisis of worst levels of acute food insecurity. According to Hamas-run Gaza Authority, at least 57 people had starved to death as a result of Israel's blockade last week. Despite that, Israel is in no mood to stop the military operations in Gaza. Today, Israel's National Security Minister has said that the war on Hamas must not stop and aid should not be let into Gaza. In broadcast remarks from the Israeli parliament, Ben-Gvir said defeating Hamas was the top goal of the war and the only way for Israel to return its hostages from Gaza. Listen in.
The total defeat of Hamas is the ultimate goal of this bloody campaign we're in. It is the only way to bring all our hostages home. Mr. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, we must not stop. President Trump had already given you the backing. He had already told you that the gates of hell can open on Gaza. And we are procrastinating and missing out. We must stop missing out. We must stop procrastinating. We must launch a decisive attack, occupy all of the Gaza Strip, and encourage voluntary migration of Gazans to countries around the world.
And earlier, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to continue with plans for an intensified military campaign and has said that there would be no ceasefire in Gaza. This after Hamas decided to free the last surviving U.S. hostage in Gaza, Eden Alexander, as a goodwill gesture to Donald Trump. The Israeli-American hostage is set to be released by Hamas following four-way talks between Hamas, the U.S., Egypt and Qatar. It prompted family members of the Israeli hostages still held in Gaza to voice their anger at Netanyahu. On Monday, hostages gathered at the square in Tel Aviv as mothers and fathers of hostages pleaded with U.S. President Donald Trump and Special Envoy to West Asia, Steve Witkoff, to continue their efforts to bring about the release of all the remaining hostages. Parents called on to end the war in Gaza and agree to a ceasefire deal to free all the remaining hostages.
On the one hand, I am today very happy for the release of Eden Alexander, but on the other hand, I am very sad that families of hostages need to have foreign passports in order to release their loved ones from Hamas captivity. What about our Israeli passports in our country? What about our citizenship in this country? The government doesn't know how to protect its own civilians.
You see, U.S. President Donald Trump has signaled his readiness to accept a luxury aircraft from the royal family of Qatar. And this is a move that critics say reeks of impropriety and possibly outright bribery. The plane in question? A Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet worth nearly $400 million and has been dubbed a flying palace thanks to its opulent interiors. According to reports, the Qatari royals have offered the jet in order to serve as Trump's temporary replacement for Air Force One. A Qatari spokesperson, in fact, said in a statement that the possible transfer of an aircraft for temporary use as Air Force One was still under consideration between Qatar's Ministry of Defense and the U.S. Department of Defense. Al-Ansari said no decision has been made. Trump, however, appeared to confirm the deal himself on his Truth Social platform, writing, I'm quoting, "So the fact that the Defense Department is getting a gift free of charge of a 747 aircraft is a very public and transparent transaction. So bothers the crooked Democrats that they insist we pay top dollar for the plane," quote unquote. According to ABC News, the plan is for the U.S. Air Force to first configure the plane for presidential use, and then once Trump leaves office, the aircraft would be reportedly transferred to his Presidential Library Foundation by January 2029. White House and Justice Department lawyers reportedly pre-cleared the deal, determining it did not qualify as bribery because it wasn't conditioned on any official act. Trump's attorneys argue that the jet is being gifted to the U.S. Air Force, not to Trump personally. Still, the backlash has been fierce. Congressman Jamie Raskin pointed to the Constitution, which explicitly bars federal officials from accepting foreign gifts without congressional approval. He called it a gift and a grift. That's not all. The controversy comes just days after the Trump Organization, which is now run by his children, announced a $5.5 billion golf course project in Qatar, further raising eyebrows. Critics say the move blurs lines between diplomacy, business, and personal enrichment. And in case you're wondering, yes, Trump already has a private jet. But it's a 1991 Boeing 757 known as Trump Force One. And this new aircraft would be far more modern and clearly far more controversial in a way. Trump is set to visit Qatar during a trip to West Asia this week. Reuters reports the airplane will not be presented or accepted while Trump is in Qatar. Shifting focus now to the Ukraine war. Russia is ready for direct peace talks with Ukraine. Yesterday, Russian President Vladimir Putin offered Ukraine the opportunity to restart talks, this time without any preconditions. And Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky responded. He said he wants a ceasefire and invited Putin to come to Turkey if he wants talks. Well, today, the Kremlin has reiterated Russia's position but has pushed back against mounting international pressure over a possible ceasefire in Ukraine. In a strong statement today, the Kremlin said that what it called ultimatums from the European Union simply unacceptable. This after EU leaders demanded basically that Russia agree to a ceasefire by the end of the day.
Before that threats, we had already heard the threats the day before yesterday, if you remember. They were voiced as an ultimatum. But the language of ultimatums is unacceptable for Russia. It is not suitable. You cannot talk this way with Russia.
That was the Kremlin spokesperson who also confirmed that Putin remains serious about peace talks and has proposed that they be held in Turkey. He also cited positive reactions from U.S. President Donald Trump, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, as well as from countries in the BRICS group and countries in the former Soviet Union. But before reporters could ask any more questions about the proposed talks, Peskov said, and I'm quoting here, "That's all. I've said everything I could about this story," quote unquote. Russia has said it is committed to what it calls a serious search for a long-term peaceful settlement, and referring to past failed attempts at diplomacy, including talks in 2022. Now, it's important to note that Putin and Zelensky have not met face-to-face since 2019, and by all accounts, their relationship remains icy. In fact, Putin's proposal for direct talks came just hours after major European powers warned of massive new sanctions unless the Kremlin agrees to a 30-day unconditional ceasefire. Earlier, foreign ministers from France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Spain, the UK, EU's foreign policy chief issued a joint statement in London saying that Russia has not shown any serious intent to make progress, and that it must do so without delay. They also pledged tougher action, limiting the Kremlin's revenues, strengthening Europe's defense base, and even exploring the formation of a new air, land, and maritime coalition to support Ukraine and boost long-term regional security. So far, only Ukraine's Zelensky has said he would attend. Putin has not yet confirmed if he will be showing up. Shifting focus for now, U.S. President Donald Trump has revealed details of the highly speculated trade deal with China. Trump has said that there has been a total reset of ties with China after reaching an agreement to drastically reduce tit-for-tat tariffs for 90 days.
Folks in Geneva were very friendly. The relationship is very good. We're not looking to hurt China. China was being hurt very badly. They were closing up factories. They were having a lot of unrest. and they were very happy to be able to do something with us. And the relationship is very, very good. I'll speak to President Xi maybe at the end of the week. We have some other things we're doing.
The meeting was the first face-to-face interaction between senior U.S. and Chinese economic officials since Trump took office and launched a global tariff blitz. Talks lasted over 15 hours and were held at the Swiss ambassador's residence, with both sides reporting substantial progress. The temporary tariff rollback sent a wave of optimism through global financial markets. The tariff war had frozen nearly $600 billion in two-way trade and disrupted critical global supply chains. Despite the progress, analysts caution that long-term stability remains uncertain. Both countries agreed to establish a new discussion mechanism led by Vice Premier and U.S. officials, while the Geneva deal halts retaliatory actions, including China's rare earth export curbs. Shifting focus for now, the Philippines is voting on a crucial midterm election. The polls, in fact, are being seen as a referendum on the explosive feud between the President, Ferdinand Marcos, and impeached Vice President Sara Duterte. Former President Rodrigo Duterte, in custody of the International Criminal Court in The Hague since March, is also among the candidates. The race will decide more than 18,000 posts, from seats in the House of Representatives to hotly contested municipal offices. However, it is the battle for the Senate that carries potentially major implications for 2028's presidential election. The 12 senators chosen today will form half the jury in an impeachment trial for Duterte. The trial, scheduled for later this year, could see her permanently barred from public office. Sara Duterte will need 9 votes in the 24-seat Senate to preserve any hope of a future presidential run. Duterte's feud with former ally Marcos exploded in February when she was impeached by the House for alleged high crimes, including corruption and an assassination plot against the president. And nearly a month later, her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, was arrested and flown to the International Criminal Court to face a charge of crimes against humanity over his deadly anti-drugs campaign. Despite his detention at The Hague, the elder Duterte remains on the ballot in his family's southern stronghold of Davao City, where he is seeking to retake his former job as mayor. The Philippine Army reported that a day before the election, at least 2 people were killed in a clash between supporters of rival political camps in southern Mindanao Islands Autonomous Muslim region. The Philippines has a history of violent elections, especially in the rest of South, where armed clashes between groups of political rivals are common. Decades-long Kurdish insurgency is heading to its end in Turkey. Kurdistan Workers' Party, also known as PKK, has decided to lay down arms and dissolve itself. The group waged a 40-year armed struggle against the Turkish state, resulting in more than 40,000 deaths. The move comes after an appeal from PKK leader Abdullah Öcalan, who from his prison cell urged the group to end its armed struggle. In a letter, he declared that there is no alternative to democracy. He called for a new era of politics rooted in dialogue, not violence. On Sunday, a statement from the PKK said it had completed its historical mission and would now seek a resolution to the Kurdish issue through democratic politics. The group, which once fought for a separate Kurdish homeland, has shifted over the years towards demands for greater autonomy and rights. The PKK is banned as a terrorist organization by Turkey, the US, the UK and the European Union. Its forces have been severely degraded in recent years by Turkish military operations, and their presence in Iraq and Syria has also been weakened in recent times. President Erdogan's government called the move an important step towards a terror-free Turkey.
I think the decision taken by the PKK is a historic and important decision. I see this decision as quite important, especially regarding lasting peace and stability being dominant in our region. Of course, there are practical steps that need to be taken, after this decision was taken, and we will follow those closely.
Sonra atılacak pratik adımlar var.
And with national elections due in 2028, this may be the most significant step towards peace between Turkey and the Kurdish population. A group of Indian mothers has urged the government to take resolute action against the alarming rise of online promotion of nicotine products targeting the youths. Called Mothers Against Vaping, the coalition has written to different ministries, including Home Affairs and Health and Family Welfare. The group has emphasized that despite having laws banning promotion of tobacco products in all forms, manufacturers allegedly continue to glamorize vapes and e-cigarettes on digital media. In a set of appeals, the Mothers Collective has asked the Indian government to instruct digital platforms to remove all content advertising nicotine products. The group has also demanded strict action against manufacturers and brands profiting from the sale of these items online. Moreover, they have also proposed setting up of an inter-ministerial task force to actively monitor and curb illegal online promotion of tobacco products. Under the Prohibition of Electronic Cigarettes Act 2019, the production, manufacture, import, export, transport, sale, distribution, storage and advertisement of electronic cigarettes are unequivocally banned in India. Similarly, Section 5 of the Cigarettes and Other Tobacco Products Act 2003 prohibits both direct and indirect ads of tobacco products in the country. The Taliban have banned chess in Afghanistan, citing religious concerns and potential association with gambling. The move is the latest that reflects the regime's strict interpretation of Islamic law and crackdown on cultural and personal liberties. The action was taken by the Sports Directorate of the Taliban, which regulates all sports events in Afghanistan. They said there are religious considerations regarding the sport of chess. Until these considerations are addressed, the sport remains suspended.
It's an international game, and we have it in all Islamic communities, including countries like Iran, Pakistan, and many other Islamic nations. Players participate at the international level and take part in international tournaments.
And since taking power in August 2021, the Taliban have been cracking down on sports and cultural freedoms. Women are essentially barred from participating in sport at all, with many fleeing the country to save their lives. Last year, the Taliban authorities also banned mixed martial arts, claiming the sport is too violent and problematic with respect to Sharia. The National Chess Federation in Afghanistan has not held any official events for nearly 2 years. These actions contribute to a worsening situation where youth have fewer outlets for engagement and development, to say the least, leading many to feel disconnected and hopeless.
Right now, there really aren't that many programs or specific activities available for the youth, very limited overall. That's why chess was a good use of their time. It did not involve gambling, and young people would come together. It was a mental game, and they would gather here every day. But now, whether they like it or not, they are drifting apart, and a gap is growing between the youth.
It's truly the end of an era in Indian Test cricket. Two stalwarts have walked into the sunset, bidding farewell to the longest format. Virat Kohli has announced his retirement from Test cricket just days after Rohit Sharma did the same. Kohli shared an Instagram post, I'm quoting, "It's been 14 years since I first wore the baggy blue in Test cricket. Honestly, I never imagined the journey this format would take me on. It's tested me, shaped me, and taught me lessons I'll carry for life. There's something deeply personal about playing in whites. The quiet grind, the long days, the small moments that no one sees, but that stay with you forever. As I step away from this format, it's not easy, but it feels right," quote unquote. 36-year-old Kohli had reportedly informed the Indian Cricket Board of his intention to retire from Test cricket ahead of the 5-match series against England, while discussions between Kohli and the board were ongoing, he ultimately confirmed his decision through a post on Instagram. Kohli is a modern-day legend and has a storied career. He represented India in 123 test matches, scoring 9,230 runs, including 30 centuries and 31 half-centuries. Kohli has scored the fourth most test runs for India. He had an average of 46.9 in the red ball format. Kohli's most enduring legacy will be his tenure as Test captain. He took over the reins from Mahendra Singh Dhoni in 2015 and instilled an aggressive, fearless mindset in the team. The 2018 Men's ICC Test Cricketer of the Year led India to 40 wins in 68 matches. He remains India's most successful Test captain. Only Steve Waugh, Ricky Ponting, Graeme Smith have registered more victories as Test captain than Kohli. It was under Kohli's leadership, in fact, that India secured its first ever series win in Australia. Kohli, like Rohit Sharma, will continue to play ODIs. Both had earlier retired from T20 internationals after winning the 2024 World Cup and have now stepped away from Test cricket within days of each other. Their focus now appears to be on the 2027 ODI World Cup. And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
Welcome back. You're watching WION World is One. Thank you for joining us at this hour. This is a continuous coverage. I'm American Joker. The headlines.
पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो टेररिज्म पर ही होगी.
talks with Pakistan only on terror and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, says Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
कोई भी न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल भारत नहीं सहेगा।
Narendra Modi